So much, Isabel. Your brothers miss you so much.
The father of missing 6-year-old Isabel Celis can no longer have contact with his 2 sons.
We don't have anything to hide, so
Nothing.
Go for it. Say what you want to say, but in the end, we are confident we had nothing to do with it.
Child Protective Services has removed the 2 older boys from the Celis home and prohibited their father, Sergio, from seeing them.
It's taking its toll. It is wearing them down.
You can see it in their faces.
And it's a lot of quiet cuddle time with them and holding them.
Why are officials keeping Isabel's dad away from his own family?
Breaking news tonight, police are releasing the first 911 calls from the disappearance of 6-year-old Isabel Celis. We are processing them right now. We will release them to you the second we have them basically into our system and we can put them back on the air. Who is saying what on those tapes? That is crucial. Meantime, this family is fractured tonight. The father of the missing 6-year-old Tucson girl is banned from having any contact whatsoever with his 2 young sons, not even a phone call. He and Isabel's mother are no longer living together. This begs the question, what did cops uncover that would make them separate this father from his own flesh and blood? Cops say Child Protective Services usually gets involved in any missing child case, and for reasons they will not disclose, they thought it would be best to split up this family. Cops say this does not mean Isabel's father is a suspect, just that detectives became aware of information regarding the welfare of the 2 older Celis children, 2 boys ages 10 and 14. Here is a tearful Sergio Celis, the father, just days after Isabel vanished, pleading for his daughter's return.
We are cooperating to the fullest extent with the investigation. We are increasing the reward. Just please, please, to the person or persons who have Isabel, tell us your demands. Tell us what you want. We will do anything for her.
Isabel's dad said he put Isabel to sleep at about 11 p.m. Friday, April 20th. The next morning, he says he found her missing from her bed after the mother leaves to work as a nurse. Police say Isabel's window was open, the screen pushed out. Our show obtained exclusive police scanner traffic from that morning and learned a so-called sister reported Isabel missing. But Isabel doesn't have a sister. Listen.
It is reference east, 12, the missing 6-year-old, the number 1 female, light brown hair, hazel eyes, about 40 pounds. Seen in a pink tank top and navy blue shorts when she was put to bed. The plan is actually going to be the sister, and it looks like mom is en route.
So will these 911 tapes that will soon be released, we're working on them right now to turn them around, identify who that mystery female complainant is, and will Isabel's father's voice be on those 911 calls? Well, I want to pause for a second because we're being told by our producers that the first person who calls may have sounded like a female, but it's actually the older brother of the missing child, the 14-year-old son. This is from the producers who are listening to this as we speak. And then, as the mother, Becky, returns from her nursing duties at the hospital, races back home, she then calls 911. Okay, we're going to have those to you momentarily. Remember, police dogs hit on something in the house. That's another factor in this case. Could we be on the verge of a major break? Call me, 1-877-JVM says, 1-877-586-7297. Straight out to HLN senior producer Celine Darkostanian, who is back from Tucson, where she's been covering this story for us. Celine, police spoke to reporters at length today. What did they say? What's the key?
Jane, the most interesting thing they said is that the police had something on Sergio, the father, and felt it best that he not be around his 2 older children. So they basically said that he voluntarily chose to step away after the CPS, Child Protective Services, found something that they felt they couldn't disclose to us what that something is, but they did not want the father, Sergio, near the children. So they confirmed that the children are now living with the mother, Becky. Now, we have to remember that the day that who discovered that Isabel was missing? The father. The mom was at work. Becky was at work. The father is the one that discovered Isabel missing. So he is the one that now is not allowed to see his two oldest children. Why? We don't know. The cops could not tell us why. But it is very, very interesting that he is the one that is being kept away from the children. This family, as you said, is split apart. The kids are now living with the mother. And as far as we understand from the press conference, these two parents are not separated. They were living together. They're not going through a divorce. But because of what Child Protective Services has done, they have now separated. We also learned at the press conference that they still don't have an attorney as far as we know. Remember, last week the parents said, we don't have an attorney. We don't believe we need an attorney. We haven't done anything wrong. And today, somebody in the press conference asked the cops, do they have an attorney now? And they still do not have an attorney, which is very interesting at this point that they still have not retained an attorney.
Now, police today admitted during that news conference that ended just a little while ago that the relationship that the cops have with Isabel's parents is not what it used to be. Listen to this, and we'll analyze this as well. It's coming. Might take a second.
It's somewhat more strained now. I mean, we are doing interviews. We're asking very pointed questions. I'm sure that even they had talked about in their conversations with you their frustration. I understand that. I recognize that. Probably the relationship as time goes on becomes more strained. That's quite normal and natural.
All right, Vicki Ziegler, family law attorney. What are your theories? And this is sheer speculation. We want to label it that because police are not saying what they learned that was so disturbing that it caused them to ban the father from having contact with the two boys.
Right. The obvious one would be, of course, when CPS comes in, they think that the children may be harmed in some way. The welfare of the children, the safety of the children need to be removed. That's the obvious one. I don't know if that's happening here. The second one, which probably is more likely, the children are being separated from the father. They were there at the scene. They may have information that affected or would perhaps the father would impede the investigation in the sense of them being interviewed and not being coerced by their father. They want to have independent interviews of these children away from the father. He consented. He could have fought it and said, no way, I'm not leaving my house. I'm going to be with my children. He didn't. That's what I'm leaning towards, that CPS in conjunction with the police want to make sure that these children are unadulterated. They are interviewed without the parents, and if they have any information about the missing child, that poor Isabel, that's what's going to happen.
Well, you know, we had video of the detectives a few days ago bringing in the father separately, the mother separately, and one of the boys separately. Now, this weekend, we saw Isabel's mother, Becky, out alone. This is the first time she's been alone since this information about her husband nowhere to be found. Here's what Becky had to say on Mother's Day.
I have no idea how to describe it. It's just not a Mother's Day that I want to celebrate again.
Now, Pat Brown, contrast that. There's Becky in the past with her husband, but yesterday, Becky was all alone, husband nowhere to be found. Pat Brown.
Well, I can tell you this. They're looking heavily at the husband. That's obvious. Secondly, it's very unusual for a family to split apart, even with the help of the police and social services, at a time when everybody should be together. So if there were no suspicions on that home, or very slight suspicions on that home, I don't think anybody would be tearing the family apart instead of letting them hold on to each other, support each other, and get through all of this and keep the house ready for Isabel to come home. Something is seriously wrong. The police are looking at the family very heavily.
Now, I understand why you're saying that, but I thought it was sort of strange that, given all this focus on the father in their news conference, and I'll throw this to Jeff Brown, criminal defense attorney, cops hammered away at the huge number of sex offenders that live in this area. They said they immediately interviewed 24 high-profile sex offenders in the area that were in the area around Isabel's kidnapping. And they interviewed also 540 level 2 and level 3 sex offenders. 357 of those offenders present a danger to young children. Now, if they had given up on a stranger abduction and they were focusing on this family, why go to all those lengths, Jeff Brown, to stress all these sex offenders living in the area?
Well, I think they have to. You know, keep in mind, everybody's focused on this case and what's going on and what their investigation is. And criminal defense lawyers like myself are always suggesting to them that they need to cover all their bases. They have the man force. They have the ability to do that. They can't just narrow in on one suspect, because if that turns out to be the wrong one, look at all the time they've wasted. So, you know, I applaud them for doing that. They need to cover all the bases, all the potential suspects, every lead, and they can do it all at the same time. They have that manpower. That's exactly what they should be doing.
You know, I find it very interesting. It's not just that he is not allowed to, let's say, hang out with his kids. He's not even allowed to telephone them. On Mother's Day, he was not allowed to telephone them. And again, what we're hearing is this couple that you're looking at, they are no longer living together. So their child, their youngest, 6-year-old Isabel, has vanished. And now these two are separated, with the mom living with the boys, ages, I believe, what, 14, and is it 10? And the dad, we don't even know where he's living, but he is isolated from the rest of the family. Is this part of a strategy to squeeze information out of him in the hopes that if he tells what he knows, he'll be able to see his kids again? More on the other side. We're still efforting those 911 tapes. Breaking news, we've just gotten that 911 call turned around for you. Now, just to set it up, the 14-year-old brother, the older brother of Isabel, calls first. But because he's a minor, legally, we cannot play that for you. However, his mother, Becky, the mother of Izzet, rushes back from the hospital where she works as a nurse and picks up the call, is our understanding. And let's listen to the mother talking to the 911 operator. You're hearing it as I hear it now, first fresh.
Hello? Hello, ma'am. Are you the mom? Yes. Okay, what is your name? My name is Isabel Celis. Celis. Okay, anything else do you remember she was wearing and her hair? Her hair is in braids. It's in little ponytails. I made little ponytails on her head last night before she went to bed.
Wow. All right. That, again, I'm wondering if that's... Is there more to it, or is that it? That's it? Okay. Well, that's all we have right now. But, wow, you can hear the anguish in the mother's voice, and she's pretty hysterical, as you would expect. Vicki Ziegler, family law attorney, what do you make of it?
Yeah, she sounded harrowed. She sounded shocked. She said, she sounded like something is really wrong. She knew the child should have been there. The child should not be out of the home. And apparently, the husband was the last person to actually see this child. They put the children to bed, the child to bed and the other boys. She left for work and was rushed home. So she seemed shocked, flabbergasted, clearly not involved, from our perspective. When you hear a woman like that, a mother so shocked that her child is missing.
Yeah, I get from it that she seems like, oh, she's called home. She's like, what? My child's missing? She comes home and she's calling and doing everything she can. That sounds very believable to me. Now, we also obtained exclusive police scanner audio from the morning that Isabel vanished. This is the 911 operator describing what's going down at the Celis household. Listen to this.
When the father went to get her up, she was not in the bed. They searched the residence and found her bedroom window open and the screen on the ground outside.
All right, the police are confirming that it was Isabel's father who raced out to find her, and that it was the 14-year-old son who first called 911 when they said, oh, it was her sister. I think they were hearing a little boy's voice and probably thinking it was a girl. His voice hasn't changed yet. So now we just heard the mom come back from the hospital where she works as a nurse, and she's pretty hysterical. Again, cops say they're not sure if Isabel's window was the entry point, but the window was open, the screen knocked out. Jerry, New York, your question or thought? Jerry, New York.
Hi, Jane. First of all, I love your show. I've been watching it since it was called Court TV. So it's been a long anyway,
yeah, that's a while. Yeah.
I've been watching this from the get-go, and I didn't trust him as far as I could throw him. As soon as I saw his plea, there was not one tear. Everything sounded fishy to me. you the mom?
Yes.
Okay, what is your name?
My name is Isabel Celis. Celis.
Okay, anything else you remember she was wearing and her hair?
Her hair is in braids. It's in little ponytails. They made little ponytails on her head last night before she went to bed.
Pat Brown, criminal profiler, what do you make of the sound that we've queued up thus far?
Well, I don't have any problem with that, but I am concerned that the father had his 14-year-old son call. You know, when you find your child is missing and you're panicked, I don't know, but I wouldn't have my teenager doing the business of calling 911. I'd want to be sure I'm on the phone with them and getting the information over to them as quickly and succinctly as possible, not have my teenage kid do it.
Yeah, but I have to say that it's easy for us to quarterback this Monday morning because who knows how we would react when something like this goes down. Hysteria sets in, shock sets in.
But I'm looking at from all the past instances I know, usually what you have is the parent who wants to be responsible to get the police over there. When I see them put somebody else on the phone, like if a man puts his wife on the phone to have her do it and he's telling her stuff in the background, I'm usually suspicious of that as well. Like they don't want to be on the phone because they don't want to screw up with 911. I'm not saying that's what happened, but it is one more little thing that we have to take a look at here.
Oh, so you're saying they don't want to initially be on the phone because they're afraid they might betray themselves with something they say, or that they can't handle maybe
right. It's
dissembling.
A possibility. It's a possibility.
Right. Yes. Again, he is not considered a suspect, but my understanding is that at some point the father does take the phone call, and we're going to hopefully hear that. We're trying to cue that up. June, Pennsylvania, your question or thought, June? Hey, June? June?
Hello.
Hi there, June. Your question or thought, dear?
Yes, I'm June from Pennsylvania.
I know you are. And what's your question or thought?
My question is, what evidence do they have on the father to go this far as stopping him from seeing his children?
Well, my gosh, if we knew that, we would have solved the case. This is the big question mark. Jeff Brown, criminal defense attorney. I sometimes wonder why police release this information so piecemeal. I mean, they don't have to tell us anything, but yet they hold this news conference. They go out of their way to tell us that this father is no longer allowed to see the two boys and that the mother has the two boys, ages 10 and 14. She's living separately from him, and then they will not tell us why. Okay, I think we have more of the 911 call. Is that what my producer just said? Yes? Yes, let's play more of the 911 call from Isabel's mother, Becky, right now.
Who noticed her gun? Your husband?
My husband. I went to work this morning at 7 and
you didn't hear brown hair at all?
No, I didn't hear anything at all.
Wow. Jeff Brown, your thoughts on that? The mom saying she didn't hear anything at all. She went to work at 7.
Yeah, I'm a little curious that she didn't check in on her daughter before she left, but apparently she leaves the house at 7 o'clock, and then an hour later he finds out that she's missing. It is a little suspect that he's not on the phone, but, you know, he might have been out looking for her and said quickly to his 14-year-old boy, hey, make that call. The real problem here, though, is that the cops really haven't given us a lot of help here. Of course, we were going to find out that he no longer had his two boys.
Sons.
We don't have anything to hide, so
Nothing.
go for it. Say what you want to say, but in the end, we are confident we had nothing to do with it.
Child Protective Services has removed the two older boys from the Celis home and prohibited their father, Sergio, from seeing them.
It's taking its toll. It is wearing them down.
You can see it in their faces.
And it's a lot of quiet cuddle time with them and holding them.
Why are officials keeping Isabel's dad away from his own family?
All right, we've got breaking news to bring you. It's happening as we speak. I'm hearing them just as you are. Police are releasing the 911 calls of the first reports, the first time the Celis family calls 911 to say, hey, little Isabel, we'll show you video of Isabel as we speak, little Isabel is missing. This happened on April 20th, I believe. No, April 21st. Yeah, she was put to sleep on April 20th. April 21st, sometime around the morning hours, 8 o'clock approximately, she is found missing according to her dad. Listen to the 911 calls. 8 a.m., the dad discovers Isabel's gone. The mother is a nurse. She's working at the hospital. She rushes home and gets on the phone. Listen.
Hello? Hello, ma'am. Are you the mom? Yes. Okay, what is your name? My name is Isabel Celis. Celis. Okay, anything else you remember she was wearing and her hair? Her hair is in braids. It's in little ponytails. I made little ponytails on her head last night before she went to bed.
All right, now we queued up another portion of that 911 call. Obviously, the mother is distraught. She's hysterical. She's just come home from the hospital. She's not the one who actually discovered the child missing. It's supposedly Isabel's father who discovered the child missing. The 14-year-old son, the older brother, initially gets on the phone, but we are not going to play that to you because he's a minor, and we are respectful of that. The mother picks the phone up from him, and let's listen to some more of her.
Who noticed her gone? Your husband? My husband. I went to work this morning at 7, and you didn't hear brown hair at all? No, I didn't hear anything at all.
Vicki Ziegler, family law attorney. My gosh, what a dramatic tape. And we're going to play more of it as we are re-queuing it up. Your thoughts?
Heart-wrenching. I mean, you hear hysteria in her voice. She comes home, she leaves, she thinks her child's there. All of a sudden, oh my God, she probably came into the home. Her husband saying, where's Isabel? The son is on the phone with 911. She must have not known what happened. And it's so interesting. They asked her, did you hear anything? She said nothing before she left between 7 and 7:30 and went to work. So interesting.
Well, this is what's interesting. Criminal profiler Pat Brown is that the cops have said the two older boys who were there, the 10 and the 14-year-old, can stay with the mom. So they trust the mother to stay in care for the two boys. It's the father that they have banned from seeing these children and even phoning these children. And you dovetail that with the mother goes to work and she says, I didn't see anything, because she goes to work as a nurse very early in the morning at a hospital. The dad, who, by the way, is a dental hygienist, I believe, as well as an opera singer, he's the one who supposedly discovers a child missing. That's a very narrow time frame. Okay, Pat Brown, that's a narrow time frame to do something untoward. And I'm not saying he did, but hypothetically, to do something untoward to a child between 7 and 8, it's a narrow time frame, isn't it?
That is narrow, but something could have happened before. But let me tell you what I think is really interesting. If you do a little statement analysis on what the mom said, she said, we are confident we had nothing to do with this. Now, you either had nothing to do with this, but you're not usually confident you had nothing to do with this. So that added word confident means to me she is not confident that they didn't have anything to do with this, which means I wonder that she does wonder something about her husband as well.
What did you make of that?
You know what? We really don't know what's happening here. I mean, the father willingly leaves the house. We don't know. Nobody's seen this child, heard from this child. They've had 1,000 tips call in. The police are doing everything they can. They've had armies of institutions looking for this child. We don't really know what's going on. So it's hard to speculate.
Right.
You know, it
Mary
really is.
Ann, New York. Mary Ann, New York. Your question or thought?
Hi, Jane. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Thanks for all the work you do with children, animals, and especially children. And I just love your show. I love everything about everyone that works for HLN. But anyway, getting back, it seems to me after watching the dad a second time that he is playing a role. And it's not a very good feeling that I'm getting from him. I think he's feeding off of his wife's sympathy and caring, and I don't believe that she has anything to do with anything, and she's in the dark. But if you watch his posture, he won't look out, and he is breathing very heavily. I didn't see it the first time. First I saw a distraught man. Now that I take a second look, I see something totally different in him.
Well, excellent points, Mary Ann, New York. Again, he is not considered a suspect, but let's take a look, okay, at his actual statements shortly after his daughter disappeared. For the parents of missing kids, you know, sometimes it's damned if you do, damned if you don't. Some criticize him for being too emotional. Let's listen again.
We're looking for you, Isa. We love you, and we miss you so much, and we will never give up. Just please, please, to the person or persons who have Isabel, tell us your demands.
We miss you so much, Isabel. Your brothers miss you so much. We want you back. We're looking for you. We will not stop looking for you.
All right, Pat Brown. A lot of people have said that he seemed overly dramatic.
Yeah, well, you know, it's always really hard to tell. That is all I can say about that. We've had so many families on television that either you're being truthful in your emotions or you've learned from all the other families who've been on television how to behave. So it's getting a little tricky, I think, to quickly analyze somebody and say whether they're showing real emotions or they're not showing real emotions. So I don't really come down on any side on that particular one.
You know what this kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the Kyron Horman case. Do we all remember that little boy, adorable child who vanished 2 years ago this June? At first, the whole family was together at the initial news conference. Remember this? When little Kyron vanished, and then they fractured. Kyron's stepmom and the red hair there, Terry, she became the focus of the investigation. Kyron's biological parents seemed united initially despite being divorced, but then Kyron's mom ultimately turned on Kyron's dad over her feelings that his wife, who quickly became estranged, was possibly some way involved. No one was ever charged in this case. But Vicki Ziegler, your family law attorney, nothing pits two people against each other then, my gosh, what were you thinking?
Right.
This child disappeared on his watch.
I mean, nothing can turn a marriage sour than that. Even if it was a good marriage, you don't want to ever believe that your spouse, the person you live with, love, and sleep in the same bed with, could do anything to your own children, your own flesh and blood. And that's what happens, unfortunately, in these cases. And you know what? In the case we're talking about, we don't know with Isabel. What happened? Nobody knows. Did the father do something to her? Did somebody take this child and steal it? We have no idea.
It's perplexing, but I think one of the things that we have to do is take a deep breath and step back and remind our viewers that this man is not being called a suspect by police. And Pat Brown, if he were a suspect at this point, wouldn't cops call him a suspect?
Cops never call anybody a suspect, hardly ever, unless they really got so much incredible evidence against them. They don't even like to call people persons of interest anymore for legal reasons. But, you know, it's very clear to me that the father is being looked at. The fact that the cadaver dogs hit on something in the house, and they said hit on objects, is concerning as well, that something happened to Isabel in that house. So I would say, yes, he's a person of interest, but we don't know whether he really has anything to do with it at this point. That's what they're trying to prove, yes or no.
All right, let's roll again. The mother, her first reaction when she picks up the phone after racing back home from her job. Let's listen to this.
Hello? Hello, ma'am. Are you the mom? Yes. Okay, what is your name? My name is Isabel Celis. Celis. Okay, anything else you remember she was wearing and her hair? Her hair is in braids. It's in little ponytails. I made little ponytails on her head last night before she went to bed. Who noticed her gone? Your husband? My husband. I went to work this morning at 7 and you have brown hair. At all? No. I didn't hear anything at all.
No, I didn't hear anything at all. What's interesting there is that there's no real... I mean, I'm wondering, again, this is sheer speculation. If somebody, did I hear anything? I would go, did I hear anything? Did I hear anything? How can you respond so quickly? I mean, wouldn't you want to take a moment to pause and reflect as to whether or not you really heard anything, Vicki?
I think, you know what, in hysteria, those kinds of moments where you don't know where your child is, you panic, you don't really know what to say, you're just absolutely freaking out. And I think the credibility issue that everyone's pointing Sergio on, a lie detector, I think was administered, that's going to point to some information.
Tomorrow, we are going to play these tapes in their entirety, or for the most part. But we're processing them. We're going to have all of them, including the father, when he gets on the phone, the center of this case, Sergio Celis. You're going to hear him tomorrow on the show, so please join us for that. Up next.